It's a long-awaited and very big commitment now scheduled to roll out in hyperspeed, with a lot of questions still attached to it. The Prime Minister is pledging to hit NATO defense spending targets in just 10 months. That is 5 years earlier than what he'd said on the campaign trail. Prime Minister Carney promised $9.3 billion in additional spending for everything from military hardware to soldier housing. The Prime Minister said the urgency is in part to lessen Canada's reliance on America. But this is in addition to tens of billions of dollars on previously committed purchases like 88 U.S.-built fighter jets. Joining us now is former Chief of the Defense Staff, General Wayne Eyre. Great to see you, General Eyre, and great to have you back on the show.
Well, Mercedes, thanks for having me back. Thanks for your persistence in getting me back. And I have to say that I do feel some flashbacks coming, stepping into the room here.
Well, you always have something interesting to say, which is why we love talking to you, your candor, your honesty, and people love hearing from an experienced soldier about the state of the world. I look around the world right now, from the war in Europe to concerns about the Middle East to the situation, which has a lot of people's attention between Iran and Israel. Do you feel the world is more or less dangerous than when you retired almost a year ago?
So Mercedes, great question. It's continuing to be more dangerous, as we thought it would be. The confluence of threats that we're seeing out there is making the world much more unpredictable. You know, the rules-based international order that for so long provided the guardrails against large-scale international conflict, well, those have been eroded. And what's emerging, we don't know yet, but it is much more dangerous, and this transition period is rife for miscalculation. We have chaos reigning around the world. It's crazy out there.
When you look at those threats, what jumps out to you as your top one or two that you're concerned about?
Well, it's the alignment between China and Russia, the disregard for sovereignty, the norms of not rattling the nuclear saber. The proliferation of nuclear technology is something that we need to be very worried about. And just the sheer number of conflicts and wars around the world. You know, I read an article or book last week that said there's 61 state-based conflicts in the world last year, 11 of which were wars with over 1,000 dead. And so that just speaks to the chaos that's happening throughout the world.
When you were in uniform, I thought you were very brave because you gave a stark warning that I think a lot of CDSs might have been worried about their future. And you really put the country and security first in saying, we're not ready if there's a war. People need to know we're not prepared. Are we still in that same state of inadequate readiness today?
So I'm glad that the question of readiness is on the table, because you can buy all the nice new shiny equipment you want, but if you don't have the people, the infrastructure, the components of readiness that go into making a capability work, it's useless. And so investing in people, investing in sustainment, in serviceability of our equipment, investing in ammunition, all super, super important, and I'm glad to see a focus on that now. It's going to take some time because we have had decades of hollowing out of the Canadian military, and you just can't fix that overnight. It's going to take a long time, but what we need, and I'm detecting it, is a sense of urgency to get us ready to face this increasingly dangerous world.
Were you surprised to hear the Prime Minister go from what he was saying during the campaign, and in fact during his prime ministership initially, we're not going to do this until 2030 to hit the NATO 2%, to suddenly we're hitting it in 10 months and a sense of urgency there? I know there's been pressure from our allies. A senior Liberal source told me it wasn't just that, it was also that he got briefed on the actual state of the Canadian Armed Forces and Canadian national security and found that quite concerning. But what do you make of that sudden jump in a timeline?
You know, first and foremost, defending the country is the top role of a government. Everything else is secondary, and the realization of that, given the increasingly dangerous world that we're in, yeah, that was excellent to see. You know, secondly, the focus on a sense of urgency, and now to be able to do this, to realistically be able to do this, you need the cooperation of the whole ecosystem, so the other government departments, industry, etc., to make this work. It can work. It takes will And on Monday with that announcement, we saw that will. The important part here is going to be sustaining that will, because this is not a short-term endeavor. And so it's got to be bipartisan. We've got to be in this for the long run. And that means bringing the Canadian people along as well and continuing the education about the realities that we face in this dangerous world. We can't be doing this just because our allies berate us. We have to be doing this for the right reason, and that's to defend Canada against some very, very real threats.
One of the questions about that defense industrial base and about adaptation has been, who should we rely on for defense cooperation and defense procurement? And there's been questions about whether the Americans are still the reliable ally they once were under Donald Trump. And I know there's been a debate inside the Defense Department and inside other parts of government too, on whether or not we should be refocusing on our European allies, or whether the reality of geography and history means the need for interoperability, still focusing on the Americans. What's your take on where Canada should be looking to going forward?
So alliances are predicated on certainty. And if there is uncertainty, that raises the question as to how reliable an ally is. In my belief, we need to hedge. We need to have a diverse group of allies, partners, and friends, a mesh, if you will, because we just don't know what the future is going to bring. Yes, we are neighbors. We have shared history, shared language with the U.S. And I heard an interesting statement a couple weeks ago. There's more Americans who think like Canadians than there are Canadians. And we have many, many friends down there. And we have to keep faith with them and not burn those bridges. But at the same time, ensure that we have the ability to have multiple partners depending on what the situation is at hand. And so investing in partnerships and allies in Europe, in the Asia-Pacific region, I think is very, very much in our national interest.
I do want to ask you, when you look at the Canadian Armed Forces, what do you think your biggest concern is, and what do you think the most important thing they need to achieve is?
Oh, there is so much, because as I said, we're recovering from decades of hollowing out. Getting the people in place, job one. Addressing the underpinnings of readiness, the serviceability of equipment, the ammunition, the infrastructure. That is just so important. But I do have to say that things are looking so bright, and I'm envious. I would, if I had the opportunity, I would do it all over again, because it does provide such a great opportunity. As I sit down and reflect on my service, so many great people, so many great experiences, and that's what awaits those who join this fantastic institution.
You are in the process of writing a book right now, your memoirs. As you reflect back on this incredible career that has spanned so many key moments in history, what are you finding you really think about?
So this has been quite cathartic for me as I go through this process. I'm actually enjoying it. As I relive many of those deployments, those events over the course of 40 years, whether it was serving in Cyprus, or the Battle of Medak Pocket, or reversing ethnic cleansing in Bosnia, or time in Afghanistan, what I'm finding is several themes continue to come up. One is readiness. And the challenges that we're facing in readiness now are nothing new. We faced it in the Cold War. We faced it throughout my career as we had to smash battalions together to have enough to deploy. But if you look back at Canadian military history, where were we in 1914? Where were we in 1939? Where were we in 1950? Yeah, in a massive state of unreadiness. And so, addressing that is important. The importance of character is just so important. I've worked with many with just fantastic character. The strength of our people is another theme that comes out, and so it's been a good journey for me to analyze what it all means. Well, it's a journey and process.
We look forward to having you back on the show when your book is complete and we've had a chance to read it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Mercedes.